Hey, you are listening to Abyss Gazing, a horror podcast where we celebrate all things spooky and mental health.
And apparently today, cheesy, as I'm your co-host, Mark.
And I am your Llamageddon defender, Josh.
Did I end up with Velocipaster? Is that
You
what we're doing?
did! Welcome to the very, very first ever annual
It's
Bad
annual.
Movie Showdown, where we are pitting three bad movies against each other. And just to kind of show you guys what we're talking about here, we're talking about 2015's Llamageddon. It currently has an IMDb score of where is it?
3.9 out of 10. I just looked it up.
3.9 out of 10. 2015's Sharknado, which holds a 3.3 on IMDb, and Velocipaster, which holds a 5 out of 10. And surprisingly has a lot of 5-star reviews on Letterboxd as well. I'll be representing Llamageddon. Mark will be representing the
Velocipaster.
Velocipaster. And our guest from our friends over at You Have to Watch This Podcast, Mr. Devin Struthers, will be representing Sharknado.
I can't wait. Guys, thank you for inviting me.
I am
So are we
so excited to
arguing
hear you.
which is worse or which is most cheesily fun?
I think it's which one is worse. Like, I think we're defending which one is worse. Is that right? I can go either way, to be fair.
Yes. So before we go ahead and get started with this, we will set up the rules. We will each be defending why our film is inherently the worst of the three based upon acting, the technological advances of it or their lack thereof, and dialogue / writing as well as pacing as well. And we're gonna hopefully see who wins this year's coveted prize. But before we do that, Devin is from our friends over at You Have to Watch This. And in case you don't know of You Have to Watch This, Devin, give us the quick elevator pitch.
No problem. So You Have to Watch This podcast is me and my two friends, Alan and Ryan, each get each other to watch a movie that the other one, at least one of the two of us, hasn't seen before. So we found out there are pretty glaring gaps in all of our movie knowledges. Things like Alan hasn't seen any of the Lord of the Rings movies. So we make people watch movies that are important to us and get their reactions.
I'm sorry. I find that very weird to comprehend that he
Isn't
hasn't
it?
seen those. It just
It,
it
it
just
makes no
seems like
sense.
it just seems like it would be his kind of cup of tea, but to each their own. Maybe I don't know my friends as well as I thought I did. But where can people find you guys?
So they can find us really anywhere that you get podcasts. We are on Spotify, we're on Pandora, we are on Apple podcasting platform. We are also on Rum Runners Podcast Network. So go to Rum Runners Podcast / You Have to Watch This Podcast. You can find us right there.
We'll provide those links in the show notes. But gentlemen, Devin, since you are our guest, why should we all take a vote for Sharknado to be the worst of the worst for this batch?
I mean, before we really get started, though, all of these movies are fun in their royally cheesy, horrible own way. So there's no real loser here.
All right, let me just combat that statement by saying this is that there are fun aspects to all of them, but there is one very clear winner in my book because one of them understood the assignment and went out to bat and hit a home run. So, Devin, being that you are our guest, Sharknado is considered one of the worst, cheesiest franchises to be in existence in horror history here recently. Why should it win the coveted title of worst?
A few reasons. But first, I want to ask you, gentlemen, what would you do with $2 million? If you could do anything in the world. I can tell you what a couple of people have done with less than that money. They've made the movie Reservoir Dogs. They've made the movie El Mariachi. Saints and Soldiers was made for less than half the budget of Sharknado. Sharknado is a $2 million movie. These cinematic masterpieces have come out for considerably less than this. And what did they come up with? What did they come up with for $2 million? Storm's dying down. How can you tell? Not as many sharks flying around.
Yeah.
That's what they came up with for $2 million. Sure. 90% of that budget probably went to absolutely wasting Tara Reid as an actor in the movie. However, I think that this movie, of any movie that we watched here, had the most potential to be great and squandered it the most. It had the highest budget of all of it. It had the most insane jumps and leaps in logic than most of it. It had the most unintentionally bad dialogue than most of it. And I'm making a difference here. There is intentionally and unintentionally bad logic than anyone. It had the most to gain, and it lost it all. That's where I'm saying, that's where I'm planting my flag about why Sharknado is the worst of the three of these.
But logically speaking, it couldn't have been too bad to spawn what, 5 more sequels, each with a progressively larger budget and its own bigger following for the entire franchise.
Not to mention, it also has a documentary exploring the phenomenon of Sharknado.
And a riff track for 1 and 2.
Yes, it does.
The riff track is incredible, and you'll have to put me to that. So this is where I think things get a little bit silly. So have either of you seen Tommy Wiseau's The Room?
Yes.
No.
So Tommy Wiseau's The Room is, oh boy, we got to do that at some point. Tommy Wiseau's The Room is a movie that is now hailed as a dark comedy. However, at the time, Tommy Wiseau made the film in earnest. At least allegedly, he made the film in earnest. It was supposed to be a genuinely dramatic movie. It came out and was unintentionally hilarious, and he's now leaned into it to the point where it's now billed as a dark comedy. If you watch the progression of Sharknado movies, it does exactly the same thing. I believe genuinely that Sharknado 1 was an earnest attempt at an action movie released on the Sci-Fi Channel. And then from Sharknado 2 to the rest of them, I think that they went, oh, that was a lot sillier than we thought. Let's lean into the humor. And I think that's what people are gripping onto the most, is they did that quick pivot to, no, guys, it was meant to be funny. And actually, it really wasn't.
See, with the exception of the first like 3 seasons of The Expanse on Sci-Fi before they canceled it, what was the last great thing that Sci-Fi actually put out that wasn't unintentionally funny or cheesy?
Oh, you might have me in a corner there.
While you guys answer that, I think the thing that gets me for Sharknado is that it takes itself way too seriously. The movie looks incredibly crisp. It has a great cinematography. The acting is surprisingly good. The CGI is where you kind of lose it, but it's like you have this insane logic. Like, apparently there's something that happened recently in the world where there actually was a tornado
of sharks.
Like this actually happened.
Yeah.
And so to say that like this is out of all of the three of these movies we're talking about today, this one actually has the most logic, it's the most grounded, but it's the one that takes itself too seriously. And that's why I will present my argument for Llamageddon being the worst, because not only it's probably the lowest budget out of all 3 of these, not only does it have the worst acting, the worst camera, it is set out to make a bad movie, and it won. It 100% won. Like,
and
the fact.
So what was the deal with Llamageddon with Dude Man that every scene they showed him, he had a new T-shirt on?
That's what I loved. That made this movie for me.
Exactly.
That's it. That's why this movie could never be worse than Sharknado, because Sharknado needed internal consistency and logic. It needed everything to be just roughly scientifically right, but maybe a little wrong. But Llamageddon's like, you know what? We're going to say something and then have a weird 30-second dance scene in a hallway for no reason at all because we want it in our movie. That's Lamageddon. That's what I love.
Lamageddon knew what it was trying to be and accomplished it in flying colors.
100%. So I'm gonna say that I think in the argument, the reason that I wanted it so much is because Lamageddon is the best of these three. So it's gonna be really hard for me to defend it because it knew it was coming out to make a piece of crap, and it absolutely like doubled down on it. Like the one of the characters
you
in
can't
this,
you can't forget in the middle of the movie the guy going from I don't think we should do that to no, I'm a man.
yeah. So Floyd is the guy's name. He has sex once, loses his virginity, all of a sudden he's a man. Like he makes like his character dynamic completely flips because he got lucky.
His balls drop and he becomes a baritone. It's
God, it was
phenomenal. So good though.
Oh, and the thing with Lamageddon is that you can tell the writers were like, let's just do this. Forget it. Like, let's just make this insane dialogue. I can't remember what the exact quote was, but there was that like back and forth between him and his sister, between Floyd and his sister, where she was like, I'm so proud that you're my like lil bro or something like that. And the dialogue is so bad between these two characters, but you know they're doing it on purpose. And it's so good.
I just want to say that I like watching all three of these. I was like cautious and like kind of like really. I want to say I didn't want to do this episode, but as it kind of like grew naturally, because originally this was just supposed to be Sharknado. We kind of grew it to be this like bad movie showdown. But I will say this, that like Lamageddon had so many lines that was just like WTF that the dialogue in this is like they studied the aforementioned Tommy Wiseau's The Room, and we're just like, you know what? How do we get from oh she'll be okay to how's your sex life? Like just that progression, and like that's exactly like how the dialogue feels in Lamageddon. Like it just kind of goes from like one to another.
And dude man getting spit on and starting to turn into a llama and giving birth to llama eggs.
That was again, logic doesn't make sense in this.
And that's the thing. It's like it throws conventional logic out the window. Don't worry about how llamas work. Sure, they came from space. Whatever.
And the fact that every time they had anything that was going to need any sort of detail, they're like, we're just going to animate it as a cartoon.
I will also say that I love the fact that they basically the quote unquote spaceship for the llamas is a tractor, and like anytime there's like an investigation,
horse trailer with wings.
Anytime that there's like an investigation, they're like, we don't know what this is. This must be a spaceship. What?
Within seconds, it's like what you said. It starts with this like almost kind of incredible, unexpected animation that reminded me in all of the worst ways of Pink Floyd's The Wall. I was like, all right, this is what I'm on board for. I get it.
Yeah. Lamageddon had animation, Mark. What did you have?
Yeah.
I had a preacher that wore a paper mache dinosaur costume and bit people's arms off. That somehow turns into a kung fu movie at the end.
Why is it the worst? This is the argument I've been waiting for all day. Why is it the worst?
It falls in that same category with Lamageddon, where they knew they were just making a dumbass movie. But the effects were like ridiculous. They weren't even like traditional effects. They're like high school kids trying to do traditional effects. At one point, you see a head ripped off, and it's very clearly a dummy head with blood sprayed all over it and a wig and like super glued on eyebrows and stuff. And it was like, wow, this is special. It had
I feel like what got me with Velocipaster is that the movie opens up and it's like the lead pastor character is coming out of church, and he's like oh, his parents are coming to pick him up. They're like, oh hi, and the car explodes and it just says VFX car explosion. And he's just reacting to nothing. I was like, okay, all right, here we go. And then like it
Find
never
out it's the
reaches
pimp.
it never reaches that level of stupidity ever again.
Oh,
It's well, it does. The story does. He's like, oh, I don't know if I believe in God anymore. And his preacher cohort's like, go somewhere where you think God won't be. And if he's there, you know he's with you. He's like, I'm gonna go to China. And it looks like he's walking around a forest in Virginia. the girl the girl comes running through the forest and falls down. Are you hurt? And she's got an arrow sticking out of her chest.
I love the idea of go somewhere you don't think God will be. And he's like, China's it. It's just some of the decisions in this movie are incredible. I mean, even at the end, where the whole dialogue between him and the main actor or the main actress was, I'm okay. I'm okay. And then on screen it just showed she's okay. And this is like minutes after watching her die.
But she didn't die.
But she is. She's okay.
She's okay.
I listen. I love this movie. I love it.
That's the thing. That's what I was saying. Nobody really lost because they're all horrible movies, but they're that fun horrible.
Yeah.
But Velocipaster and Sharknado are the only two with a cult following behind them. Llamageddon is not. This is why I'm like, I'm supposed to defend Velocipaster as the worst of the three.
Yeah.
But Llamageddon's the only one without a following.
This is true, but I do believe Llamageddon is also aimed to get a sequel. I think they're in development on it. As well as Velocipaster. I think both of them are currently actively in development with the sequels.
Did you watch the post-credits scene of Llamageddon?
I did not.
I did not.
I missed it. Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
maybe I did, but maybe I didn't. Continue.
So remember the scientists are like checking it out and they find the llama egg, the fuzzy llama egg.
Mm-hmm.
Post credits, the scientist is eating a green omelet. He took the egg home to make an omelet.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I hope that's where the next movie starts. I really do.
But I mean, you have the thing with Velocipaster, though. You've got the giant paper mache dinosaur that looks nothing like a velociraptor, and he's supposed to be a velociraptor, but he looks like a kindergartner's drawing of a T-Rex.
This is where Velocipaster got me. I'm all about like the insanity, but there are elements of it that, much like Sharknado, I felt like it took itself a little too seriously. I wish we would have gotten more scenes with him as the Velocipaster / T-Rex guy that he ends up being in the end. Because here's the thing, when he's like in the T-Rex suit and he's fighting the ninjas / like the drug dealers, because
this conversation is
God's will
/ priests. Don't forget they're also priests.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's God's will.
Because the goal was to distribute cocaine, get everybody addicted, then withdraw the cocaine so everybody comes to the church for help, like God planned.
Which again, it shows the potential of this movie, but I think what got me is the fact that like when I was like, I always kind of felt like the movie was missing something for me. And the scene in particular where he's in the T-Rex suit and he's fighting the ninjas, I was like, why the hell am I not having more of this in the movie? Like, this is what I want. Like, don't like show me like fake blood effects. Like, I want to see a grown man in a T-Rex suit fighting people. Like, this is what I need.
And then somehow a college student hooker is trained enough in hand-to-hand combat to beat up ninjas.
Yes. Well, she was wearing that black spandex suit at the end, which means she's good at hand-to-hand combat. That's all you need.
And she beat up somebody with a high heel.
Also fair.
Look,
who hasn't done that?
I will also say that Velocipaster had my favorite character out of the three, and that is Frankie Mermaid.
Yes. Frankie Mermaid was incredible. Now hold on. Allow me to make my point for Sharknado. Then name any
Go ahead.
character in Sharknado.
You can't.
You can't. You can't. There's
See,
generic action hero guy. There's like forlorn love interest. There's son's love interest. There's son.
There's daughter.
And then there's creepy old man.
And Tara Reid.
All right. So here's the thing about Sharknado that like I was like, okay. So in the beginning of the movie, the waitress had a thing for Surfer Dude, and then somehow by the end loves his son. Like,
listen, you missed their critical bonding moment.
Because the son doesn't have kids and an ex-wife.
If you or someone you know is listening to this podcast right now and you're struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, we encourage you guys to please reach out. This is the heartbeat of why we do what we do. Suicide is currently the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, and as of this recording, there are 132 suicides that take place each and every day on American soil. And when you scale back internationally, there are 800,000 successful suicides. That is one death roughly every 40 seconds. So if you or someone you know is struggling, you guys can go to victimsandvillains.net/hope. That resource is going to be right in the description wherever you guys are currently listening or streaming this. There you'll find resources that include the National Suicide Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-8255. You can also text HELP to 741-741. We also have a plethora of other resources, including churches, getting connected with counselors, LGBT resources like the Trevor Project, and also veteran hotline as well. Please, if you hear nothing else in the show, understand that you listening to this right now, have value and worth. We get it. Suicide, depression, mental health, these are hard topics, and the stigma around them doesn't make it any easier. But please consider the resources right in the descriptions below, wherever you guys are listening, because once again, you have value and you have worth. So please stay with us.
yeah, I guess that was fair because like every time like she would learn something, you have a son, you have an ex-wife,
you have multiple kids. What the hell? Yeah.
This is true. So I will also say that Lamageddon doesn't have anything to throw out there in terms of memorable characters either. Mostly because like you have a llama and a bunch of teenagers that you could find in literally any slasher movie.
I mean, I did absolutely love the laser beam eyes of the llama and the way the people would explode and they would just like spray hose down blood on everybody. Or when it would like stomp on somebody, you could tell it was just styrofoam legs covered in fur.
So here's a fun fact for you. On IMDb, when you look up Lamageddon, the first build actor is Louis the Llama. So I'm gonna say that out of all the human actors, the reason my movie is the worst is because the lead actor is legitimately an animal.
I'm going to say the reason yours is the best is it's the only one of us three that had a realistic villain in it. So 0 real sharks in my movie, obviously 0 real velociraptors. Yours had the real llama.
Yeah, but Mark had ninjas in his.
I had ninja priest drug dealers.
Also, he had Frankie effing Mermaid in his.
I mean that.
And a Vietnam scarred priest.
This also true.
Yeah.
I had so many questions about that backstory in this one. I think it was the only part of Velocipaster I was like, what is this? The only part, all of it clicked. The whole rest of it, great. Did his wife show up in Vietnam halfway through Vietnam?
Mark, this is your department.
Is that what we saw?
I just remember him talking to like his buddy, and then his buddy getting shot, and laying in the ground dead while still somehow managing to smoke.
Yeah, I was also too distracted by his like really cheesy wig and like
Oh,
his
so good.
mustache. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, they didn't even bother to like, try and hide that. They're just like thick mustache. It's still gray.
But yeah,
Bad wig.
the buddy's laying there in the ground, and you can physically see him taking drags off the cigarette while he's laying there supposed to be dead. He's over
Again, that's the kind
Yeah.
of stuff that I'm here for, though. Like, give me, because the movie, it's not that like the actor just wanted to keep smoking. Like, the director told him, just keep taking drags of your cigarette. We get that you're still dead. That's phenomenal.
It's either a case of a completely incompetent director and writer that made something amazing, or they went into it knowing exactly what they were doing.
I
So
feel like, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead, Devin.
I feel like in all of these cases, they knew exactly what they were doing. I think almost, if anything, Sharknado was the only one that didn't know what it was doing. I feel like almost if
I
any of them,
would
Sharknado was like,
concur.
let's make a fun action movie. Everyone else was like, we're going to make the most B level B horror movie possible. If not a C, D, E, or F, we'll invent some letters.
Sharknado does have my favorite, like the most satisfying scene is when the lead actor
Ian Ziering.
yeah, Finn, when he like takes like the chainsaw and just like stands above the shark as he's coming out. I was like, all right, out of all of these films, all of their cringy moments, this one was the most badass. It was so good.
Are you talking about the one where he chops the chainsaws the shark in half, or the one where he Evil Deads it into the great white?
It's got to
The
be that
evil,
one.
yeah, the Evil Dead one was like is where it got me.
It was real
Can
cool. I mean, yeah.
can you
Yeah.
explain to me how he does that without chainsawing the bejesus out of the girl inside the
No, because the ending is where Sharknado falls apart. The ending
Look,
is
man,
it's not just that, it's at the end where they're like, how do we stop tornadoes? Bombs. Let's bomb Los Angeles. Guys, come on now.
look, I just want to throw this out there that logic for for Sharknado went out like a long time ago. I got done with this film and I was
And,
like, how in the world did this spawn a cult following and a franchise? I literally have no idea.
and there's logic in Lamageddon and Velocipaster.
I'm not saying there's logic in any of these. I'm saying that science, most recent events we've seen
A
Sharknado happen.
Sharknado.
But what I'm saying is, out of all of these, I don't understand how Sharknado is the one that got the cult following, or is the one that got the cult following and the
Franchise.
franchise.
Because it was the biggest shown of the bunch. Unless you've heard about Lamageddon or Velociraptor from somebody like us that know about it, you're not going to see it. Or unless you're stoned and turn on Prime and it pops up on your list, you're going to do
Yes.
that.
Listeners, let me appeal to the listeners real quick. Please go watch Lamageddon. I
And
will
Velocipaster.
And
I will
Sharknado.
show my hand right now. Out of the three of these, I know I'm supposed to be defending about why Lamageddon is the best, but it is the best of this bunch. It is the one that had me almost in tears as I was watching this.
It was so
I
bad.
I had so many questions coming out of this, like just about things, but this is the one that I felt like didn't take itself too seriously. It understood the assignment of what it wanted to do, and even like watching it, like I have seen TikToks that look more professionally made than this movie.
But how
Like,
many of those TikToks
production
have the
wise.
following that these movies have too? So
You'd be surprised, man. Some TikTokers have like legitimate surprises, like have legitimate followings.
Man,
But
I'm too old for the
I
TikToks.
I know you are, but this is the reason that I will say it is that in the favor of production value,
Yeah.
Lamageddon gets it because this looked like a whole bunch of like six teenagers got stoned that found a VCR recording and they're like, let's go make a movie.
But the llama was more believable than the paper mache dinosaur.
You never really seen the paper mache dinosaur. I'm talking strictly production here. All right. I will give you that the llama looks the best out of all three of these monsters, but the way that the rest of the films look, this one looks
He
like this is
also
a high school thesis.
he also has some of the best kills out of the three. He kicks the heart out of one dude.
He does.
He laser beams and explodes some other guys, and anime bangs another person with tentacle wieners.
Not
So
not to also mention that the reason that I feel like my movie fails most in production,
Mhm.
the sound design on this movie was absolutely terrible. There would be scenes where you would be watching the dialogue, it would stop, but the lips would still be moving.
Absolutely. Yep. I love it. I don't know. I loved that.
I think it fell in the same category as why Dude Man had a different shirt in every damn scene. It was on purpose.
There's I know we brought up Tommy Wiseau earlier, but they made a movie about the making of The Room several years ago called The Disaster Artist. It's also based on a book by the star slash producer Greg Sestro. So both are fantastic. Highly recommend them. But there's a point where Tommy in the Disaster Artist is actually getting ready, and he says the I don't remember like the exact name, but like the lady that's like in charge of like costuming and like hair.
Oh, sure.
Hey, I have to take a picture for continuity's sake. And he basically says something to the extent of continuity is your forehead, like forget about this, and then like walked on to shoot the scene. And that's what it felt like every time that like the guy always had like a different shirt. He was just like, we don't need continuity. Continuities for losers. Let's go.
These movies had me question if these people are geniuses or if they're just not, and if it's the exact opposite. Because it feels like we're taking the tack of, well, they just don't care about these things, and that's fine. But what if they did? Like, what if the director was like, do you know what's hilarious? 37 shirt changes in one movie and no explanation. Because that's objectively hilarious. And in that case, like, I think it's incredible.
Like with the hot tub scene, he walks in like a tank top. He leaves and comes back in like a black shirt. He walks off and comes back again in another shirt. Then comes back in like the tank top. And then's in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt. And then they show him running through a field in like a Star Trek shirt. And it's like
that was my favorite one, by the way. The Star Trek.
Same.
It's like, who the hell carries that many t-shirts with him in the first place? And what was the point of that?
Clearly that guy.
Yeah, he knows what's up, man. I think that's my favorite part of it, though, is they did that on purpose. And I think the fact that like the sound design and like the shots and like the scene composition are so crisp on Sharknado almost hurts it. It's like, what if next week Steven Spielberg came out with a movie called like, I don't know, Attack of the Killer Horse, and it was a B horror movie about a killer horse. We would all kind of roll our eyes and groan and go, save it for the indie people. And I think that's why I'm like so against Sharknado is the best one here.
Yeah. Well, like I also think
in horror there's like a genre of cheesy horror.
Oh yeah.
And Sharknado, I think, accidentally fell in that category, where Lamageddon and Velocipaster were intentionally done to hit that audience.
Yeah, well, here's also too, like, here's the thing too, is that I don't think I think Velocipaster because of its like campiness and its cheesiness, as well as Lamageddon, like went out to like make that cheesy horror movie. Whereas Velocipaster doesn't even feel like a horror film. It feels like they went out to go make like an action movie, and they were like, you know what works for like Fast and the Furious? Like it feels almost like it was like a draft of like the Fast and Furious franchise. And they were just kind of like, Universal was just kind of like, we could just make a TV movie about this, and it would just be as good.
How would you guys like to help us get mental health resources into schools, conventions, and other events? Well, now you can. Simply go to patreon.com/victims and villains for as little as $1 a month. You guys can help us get mental health resources into current and upcoming generations, educate and break down stigma surrounding mental health, suicide, and depression. And you get exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. And you guys can tell us which Nicolas Cage movie you want us to cover, and we'll do it. All it takes to get started is to go to patreon.com/victims and villains, or simply click the link in the episode description wherever you guys are currently listening or streaming this episode. Pick your tier and get started today. Yes, it's that simple. So quickly select the tier that you want and help us get hope into the hands of the depressed and the suicidal today.
I kind of love that take on it, and it's not something that I had thought before. For clarity, I just went back to the US for a quick trip. On the flights back and forth, I watched 7 of the Fast and Furious movies. So this is a topic that's especially near and dear to my heart, likening Velocipaster to any of the Fast and Furious movies, because you're not wrong.
I have only seen 1, 2, and Tokyo Drift. They get progressively worse each time, and it's on purpose for some odd reason. So yeah,
they're so much fun.
They do the thing that these movies do. So 1 was like a serious heist movie with like Vin Diesel. 2, I don't know what they were doing. 3, I don't know what they were doing. But at some point they went, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make this as over the top and ridiculous as possible, and that's what's going to be fun. In the same way that I think people sat down and went, do you know what's fun? By day a priest or a pastor, by night a velociraptor. That's fun. Do you know what's fun? A llama that shoots lasers out of its eyes and kills teenagers in a hot tub. Or do you know what's fun? A tornado of sharks.
It kills teenagers in a hot tub with like a little portable radio.
Yeah, exactly.
That never blows the circuit.
No, it's just a continuously going circuit. Do you not understand how water works, Mark?
At the same time, do not understand how a circuit breaker works.
Don't worry about it. It wasn't in the shot.
All right, gentlemen. The question is that sometimes a movie can be terrible, have great acting, and sometimes a movie can have terrible acting and end up somehow being a good movie because it's bad. So my question to you is, who has the worst writing and worst acting in their movie?
Worst acting is going to be Lamageddon. Worst acting has to be Lamageddon.
How dare you?
Listen, I want to argue with you, and I want to say that it's Sharknado just to hold my line. I can't argue with you. I mean, worst acting is Lamageddon. It just is.
Oh, 100%. Bring on the votes, because like there are so many times where like dialogue would be delivered and it would just be like, oh no, there is the llama. Or like I'm not trying to like there's a point in the movie where like they're also like she's trying to pimp out her brother because she thinks if he gets laid, like he'll, and I'm like, man,
well, it made him a man.
It did make him a man.
She wasn't wrong, I guess.
Yeah, but she was also like really like choosy. She was like, well, like he can't be with like this girl because she's like considered a slut. I was just like, I don't understand this logic. Like, you
She
either want to get
explained
him laid or
she
you don't want to get
explained
him
the
laid.
logic. She explained the logic. She can't be too slutty because I don't want to accidentally give him an STD because I'll never hear the end of it from my mother.
My gosh. I forgot
And
about that internal logic.
I did too. Also, I go that my movie had the worst writing. Periods.
No. Okay, so I think that acting, yours definitely has the worst. I think that writing, mine has the worst. And I think so because it's so close. Listen, it's so close to being competent, mine, because Sharknadoes are almost a real thing. And you can see a writers being like, let's just take it. We'll take the Sharknado. We'll just notch it up to like 8. And it'll just be an 8 out of 10. And then at the end, they're like, whatever, bombing, tornadoes, forget it.
Look, I will see that your film has the dumbest climax of these 3.
Perfect.
But there's not enough sharks and there's not enough action to like actually deliberate the official like worst writing, because so much of Sharknado is a filler family drama that literally has no bearing on the overall. Although I will say it is kind of dumb that like Ian and Tara like get together in the end. I was like, they hate each other. Oh, they survived this traumatic event. Like, that's not how trauma works, dude.
They didn't hate each other too bad. They did have kids.
They did. But also, like, I didn't understand like the logic of like his kids.
So
where I was like, he looks so young, but his kids are like 30.
Here's the thing, though. Velocipaster, as far as writing goes, beats them both because of how completely ridiculous the just random plot points that show up out of nowhere, like Hooker trying to pay for college. What?
That is part and parcel of the genres, though. Like, of these random plot points. That's, again, give me more of that. What I don't want in my movie is the exact directions from Santa Monica to Van Nuys that the old man in the bar gives them. Because, by the way, those are accurate. He's not wrong about how to get there. It is the 405 to the 118. He's right.
Which means Sharknado is the most logical and coherent because the directions are right. Sharknadoes have actually happened, and there's video of sharks swimming in pools after hurricanes. So that's the most logical and plausible of the bunch. With a killer llama being just ridiculous.
I will say that out of the worst writing of the 3, I would probably give it to Velocipaster because look, it had Frankie Mermaid for one. Like,
and
I keep bringing him up.
He kills the priest's parents for like no particular reason.
Exactly.
At all.
And like they were just like, it's like there's these series of videos where like a guy like pretends to do cocaine and he's like ad-libbing like how to make like Christopher Nolan movies, David Lynch movies, Fast and Furious. And it's just like, that's kind of how they went into Velocipaster. They were just like, let's just do it. A pastor and a hooker team up. Also, the pastor turns into a velociraptor. Also,
it looks like a T-Rex.
There's cocaine dealing ninjas that also happen to be priests because they're gonna do the will of God. And like at the very end, like I also really want to know in the script when they're like,
you're missing the twist that the second in command ninja is the brother. It's not in any scenes of flashbacks at all.
Until they show the flashbacks again.
Yeah. So this is what I want to know is I also want to know like the Kung Fu, like the leader of the ninjas has, depending on how you look on it.
Why did he have a Hitler stash?
Yeah, exactly. Like I want to know, was that like written into the script, or was that something that like the actor was just like, would make this guy crazier?
Hitler stash.
Hitler mustache.
I want it to be like a choice that morning, like the morning of, and they like accidentally pan to him on camera, and the director's like, "Well, we got to keep it now."
Look, in terms of continuity, the Velocipaster is not that great at continuity, but I love the fact that when his head gets knocked off at the very end, like
It's a dummy.
Yeah.
it's the dummy with the facial hair. I was like,
And
all
you
right,
can tell
let's go.
you can tell it's a dummy head, and they even have like the meat super glued to the
Oh
neck.
yeah.
And they didn't even hide the line of separation between the two.
Oh,
It's
no,
just
not
like
at
a
all.
piece of meat stuck to the bottom of a mannequin head. And yeah, they're all horrible, but all great.
Listen, I have one more nomination for you two for the worst written part of any of these movies, and
Okay.
that is one liner from this movie, from Sharknado, that made me groan out loud. Boz Hogan is staring at a blood-filled living room, turns and goes, "Looks like it's that time of the month." Guys, come on. I don't know. I think that was worse than any of the writing. I would take that to Hitler mustachioed bad guy any day.
Or a killer llama.
Or a killer llama. Exactly. I would
Yeah.
choose either of those over those kinds of one-liners.
Also, I have the IMDb page pulled up, and I just want to read this piece of dialogue from Lamageddon real quick.
Oh
Between
no.
the scientist and the doctor, and they've just
Mhm.
discovered the quote unquote spaceship. Scientist, at sight of abandoned flying livestock trailer from another planet. What are your thoughts on this, Doctor? Doctor. Well, what do I think? I'm getting too old for this shit. Scientist. Word from NASA is that they were tracking it, and I believe it's coming from Orion Nebula. Doctor. Well, that makes sense because it's from the northern quadrant. Crash lands here, so I think it's a pretty good assumption. Scientists looking at the livestock trailer. I have never seen technology this advanced. Doctor. Me neither. We could study this kind of technology for a lifetime and not understand a tenth of its advanced capabilities. Doctor. But doctor, there is I guess this is scientist. There's something else I want to show you. Hands furry llama egg to scientists. I've been waiting my whole life for this. Let's take it and examine it.
And it's the omelet at the end of the movie.
Isn't that what he's been waiting his whole life for? He then makes an omelet out of it?
Yeah.
Oh, incredible. Listen, I also want everybody that's listening to know Josh's acting was magnitudes better than how those lines were delivered in the movie. I will concede that the acting is better in Sharknado. Well done, Josh.
All right. I think we are nearing the end of this. So closing arguments, and then we will do a roundabout vote on who we think is the worst. Devin, since you are our guest, give us a clear-cut reason as to why we should vote for Sharknado.
Of any of these three movies, Sharknado had the highest budget, the most potential, the most grasp of realism, and the most internal logic. It had everything to gain to be an actual, genuine action adventure movie. Then, about halfway through the movie, took all that logic, immediately threw it out the window, and dropped the ball at the 10-yard line. It had some good acting, but it only helps to accentuate how not a good, bad movie it is. My genuine argument for it is too competent for its own good.
Thank you. Mark?
There's a paper mache dinosaur.
Man, you are not letting that go, huh?
No, no, it's like the best part of the movie. It's the paper mache dinosaur taking on like ninja priest drug dealers. Do I really need to say much more than that? And a forgotten brother.
Forgotten Brother, Frankie Mermaid.
Frankie Mermaid.
Yeah. I just need a t-shirt that says I heart Frankie Mermaid. You know?
Oh, you need it.
What you got, Josh?
I will make the argument that mine is the worst because of its writing, its acting, its production value. Everything that makes a good movie great, this movie lacks. 100% across the board. So, all
But
right.
it was a coherent story.
It was.
Unlike Velocipaster, which
All right.
just randomly changes genres in the middle to the Kung Fu movie.
This is the deal where they're going to be there. Mark said it that there will be no official losers.
Yeah.
So for this one, what is the worst one and what is the best of the three?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Worst of the three is, and I won't vote for my own here. Worst of the three is Lamageddon. Best of the three is Velocipaster. I'm firm on that.
All right, Mark.
You know what? Lamageddon's probably the best of the three and the worst of the three simultaneously.
All right, I will go. I'd said that I was gonna defend it, and I will defend it until my grave. Lamageddon is the best of these three, without any second thoughts. The worst of these is 100% Sharknado. Sharknado was absolutely atrocious.
Hey, I convinced someone.
So
Is
does
that two
mean
votes? Lamageddon is the worst?
Two votes for Lamageddon being the worst. So Lamageddon, you guys can now stream it on Amazon Prime. It is the worst of the three. But let me just say that I would honestly love to potentially one day, Mark, if you're down for it, and maybe even you, Devin, if you want to come back, I would love to do a commentary episode on Lamageddon with just how ridiculous it is as like a follow-up to this, because I just thought that like I had so much fun with Lamageddon. I really it's been 8 years. I really hope they make a sequel. I really want to see what these filmmakers are gonna do, but yeah, Lamageddon is our winner. Yeah.
But is there really a loser?
There's not.
No.
There's not. All of these. Let me rephrase that. I stand by the fact that I voted for Sharknado. Sharknado was such a bore to get through.
Wow. Okay.
Like I loathed Sharknado. Like I was gonna come into this when Mark and I did our very first episode. It was on Ghoulies. I came into the episode. I had watched all 4 films. Mm-hmm. I was like prepared, and I've had this reputation of being prepared.
Yeah.
So my plan was to come into this episode having watched all 6 Sharknado movies.
Oh my gosh.
I barely made it out the first one. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. Oh. No. I could have fun with the other 2, but Sharknado
that one was
so boring to get through.
Yeah, it was just too competent. Like it was like they tried to have legitimate family drama. They tried to have like characters that like changed, and the other 2 movies were not concerned with those things. They were like, we're just gonna have fun watching llamas kill people.
And a man turns into a llama.
Yeah,
with laser beams.
Half llama.
Oh,
and gives birth to llama eggs.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I love how like kind of becomes like an overarching like subplot of the movie. Like it like he gets squirt like probably like the halfway through the second act, and like it's just a lingering thread that they just let kind of like slowly transform. I was like, God, this is so great.
So Sharknado was like a 65, 70-minute movie. Did you notice that probably 10 minutes of it was recycled footage?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know what?
There's a few scenes that's just like a 10-second scene that they just replay over and over again. And I think at one point just mirrored it a couple times.
I will give the other 2 movies this. I don't think they reused as much footage as you typically see in these kinds of movies. Like I recently watched a movie it was like a kind of bad horror movie that it had nothing but reused clips for like 3 minutes. And it's just kind of a staple of the genre. And your guys' didn't have it.
I don't know. Lamageddon had a lot of recycled footage.
Look, Lamageddon was great. I mean, I'm just gonna throw that out there.
It's simultaneously our winner and our loser. It's like both of them.
Hey, like you crown me king. What can I say? Devin, where can people find you online?
Oh goodness! If you want to follow me, you can follow us on You Have to Watch This Podcast. We're on Instagram and we're on Facebook. If you want to follow me personally, I'm DStrothers13 on Instagram. If you want to follow our podcast, you want to see what we're up to, you have to watch this. Follow us at You Have to Watch This podcast, Rum Runner's streaming service. We're also on Facebook, Discord, YouTube. We're on Spotify, all the streaming services.
So go stalk them. Links are going to be in the descriptions below. Mark, where can we find you online?
Usually right here doing this podcast. And occasionally I update my Instagram, which I need to do again, but I haven't got my office together after moving yet. But yeah, titanium juggernaut painting on Instagram. Paint miniatures and models and stuff.
Very cool.
Yay.
Well, you guys can follow him on there and just wait for him to post new stuff. Go check out his old stuff. It'll come one day. It's a running joke now. Lastly, you guys can follow me. I am on Captain Nostalgia on Letterboxd. You guys can find us wherever you guys get your podcasts from. Search Abyss Gazing, and most importantly, you guys can follow our parent company, Victims and Villains, including our mental health resource library, other podcasts, movie reviews, and more on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twit, and wherever you guys get your podcasts from. So until next time, remember, the longer you gaze into the abyss, the more the abyss gazes back into you.